Hi there, thank you for joining. It's Ray with Tarot Living. So the tarot lesson number 7 is actually going to be about 3-card spreads, different 3-card spreads. We've done a lot of 2-card spreads in our weekly tarot readings, so I won't go into that. But let's talk about some 3-card spreads and very simple ones that you can use on a consistent basis when someone has a question. So I hope you enjoy this tarot lesson. All right, so the first 3-card spread I'm actually going to show you today is something I came up with myself, although I'm sure other people will also do it. And I'm going to use the commemorative edition of the Pamela Coleman Smith's U.S. Games version of Rider-Waite, which is kind of one of my new favorites. So this particular 3-card spread is something that you would do if someone just wants to kind of touch base and see what's kind of coming up for the next 3 months, basically. So you're out for coffee with someone. I often will do this. I usually take my tarot cards if I'm going for coffee with someone. And sometimes they'll ask me, you know, could we pull a few cards? So this is what I've actually been doing, just to give them a glimpse of the next 3 months. So I'm actually just going to randomly pick 3 cards. So I'm going to show you in a minute what this what you can do with this if you want to use astrology as well. But let's just, first we're just going to do actually the basics. So these are the 3 cards. I just randomly pulled them. Okay, so I want to make sure you're seeing them correctly. So this is the first card, which is the 4 of Cups that I pulled. Second card is the Ace of Wands, and the third card is the 4 of Wands. So these are really interesting cards. I love it. So if you're doing a 3-card spread and you're going 3 months in advance, what I would do is use the first card for the next month, the second card for the month after, etc., etc. So if they want to know what's happening in the next 3 months, so the 4 of Cups, we're in December right now, so the 4 of Cups would represent January, the Ace of Wands would represent February, and the 4 of Wands would represent March. So that is the cycle of what's going on for them. If you want to intermingle astrology into that, which is what I would do, is you would say for January, that's actually their Earth Capricorn energy that they've pulled. The second one would be Aquarian air energy, and the third one would be water Pisces energy. But let's just do it basic first of all. So you've pulled this 3-card spread and you're looking at their next 3 months in advance. So take a look at them yourself and just try and come up with, first of all, we're going to use some of our skills we've developed. So what's our first skill? So one of our first skills is to take a look at what elements we have, right? So we can see that we have a cup, and we can see that we have 2 wands. So we have predominance of wands in this particular reading. Predominance of wands is going to tell us that fire energy is going to be important for this person in their next 3-month cycle. It's going to tell us that they are going to have some type of passion or interest in something, some kind of drive or energy towards something. And they're going to be using potentially more masculine, more extroverted energy in order to accomplish something. So the cup energy is going to tell us that there's an emotional element to it, and that's going to actually start off their next 3-month cycle. So if we take a look at another aspect, let's look at our numbers. So did we have any patterns that came up for numbers? Well, indeed we did. We actually have 2 4s. So we have the 4 of Cups and the 4 of Wands. So what's that going to mean? Well, if we look back into our lessons, we can see that 4s are all about structure and form and order, and they're going to be much more grounded, and it's almost like manifestation, grounding level. And 4s are going to bring basically, I always say that 4s, think of a box that it has structure and stability because it is 4 corners, 4 sides, and it can sit up really upright and straight and everything is in order. But it also has limitations because, you think about someone, sitting in a house and looking at the 4 walls, right? There's limitation. There could be stagnation in that. And we actually do see that level of stagnation in the 4 of Cups. So if we look at January and we say, okay, so in the next 3 months, What I also want you to look at is what is the flow. So when you do a 3-card reading that's going to be the next 3 months, and I actually do 12 cards in readings where I'm actually looking at the entire year, but we're just doing 3 cards today. So let's look at flow. You always want to look at flow. Is the flow going from stagnation to action? Is the flow going from tension to release? Is the flow going from action to rest? Okay, so you always want to think about what is the flow, what is it looking like? So to me, if I'm looking at this, I'm seeing that we're going from stagnation and not much action to a significant amount of action as things go on. So we can say to this person in the next 3 months, you are going to be starting off that cycle of 3 months in January with a period of non-action, and that you are probably going to be sitting in your situation thinking about what you want, thinking about what you need, but not necessarily moving forward with any action at that time. So you can suggest to them that in January you need to really go into your emotional center and figure out what is it that's stopping you from moving forward, because there's always one cup in the 4 of Cups that's sitting there that is an opportunity that has not yet been taken. Okay, so they need to take a look at what opportunities might be around them that they would be able to grab onto and actually take and move forward with. And this is extremely significant because we see an ace right after it. So it tells us immediately that yes, they have that complete opportunity and that energy to do so, but they need to first get in touch with it. So their job in January is to go emotionally within, not get stuck in an emotion, one emotion, not get stagnated, and recognize that their boredom or their difficulty with enjoying all the things around them is temporary, and that they have opportunity that is probably knocking at the door or that is right there, but they're not looking at it, and that they need to make sure they focus on what could potentially be around the corner for them. Okay, so that's what I would say for their January energy. So for February energy, you're looking at the Ace of Wands. So you can say, there's like quite an incredible start and release of that stagnation. So by February, you are going to figure out what that cup is that was brought to you and what that opportunity is. And you're going to be able to take that opportunity and just basically, run with it. You have the energy there, that potential of energy. So there's going to be a spark of enthusiasm. There's going to be a spark of passion. There might be some kind of idea, some kind of interest that comes to mind. It could be an enterprise or a project. Oftentimes wands relate to work, not necessarily what we manifest in terms of money, which shows up in the pentacles, but the energy that we have in order to actually proceed with the extroverted actions in order to make something happen. So that involves activity, i.e., work. So they have to take a look at what are they looking at for this opportunity and how can they maximize it. So you want to make sure that when this opportunity comes to them in February, that they're aware that that opportunity was sitting there and that you have the energy to grab onto that opportunity and to make the most of it, and to really believe in the spark, that divine spark and that passion that they may feel for something. And the third card, which is going to be in March, is going to round out their 3 months, is the Four of Wands. And we know that that actually ends the cycle of the Aries energy. 2, 3, 4 of wands sit in the Aries sign and in the Aries energy. And the 4 then is that completion sense. And so it's really saying you have then been able to actually manifest something from this spark of wand energy that you have. And that manifestation is actually going to be grounded and solid and stable, and you're actually going to be able to manifest something from that and be able to probably prosper from it in terms of creating a little bit more stability, whether that be the stability of the project itself, whether that be even generating some kind of finances from it, because usually the Four of Wands can mean that there's success, some type of success involved. It can mean that even if this is about a relationship, if they were asking or they were interested in a relationship, sometimes that Four of Wands can mean that there's a positive outcome to a stable relationship that could be happening, even buying of a home, that kind of thing. So they need to take the 4 that they first see in January of stagnation and they have that ace gives them the opportunity to turn that 4 into something that can actually be manifested. So you're still seeing the 4 of the structure, but you're actually not sitting in the same spot as the 4 of Cups continuously. You're actually able to grab onto that opportunity of the Ace of Wands and then move forward and manifest something from the 4 of Wands. So if somebody wanted to just have a quick reading of what's, the touch base of what's happening in the next 3 months, so this is my suggestion. I don't know if others do this, but this is my suggestion of a 3-card reading that you can do of the next 3 months ahead. And as I say, I'm not going to get into it today because we're just going to focus on 3-card reads, but you could intertwine the astrology aspect of this into it if you like as well, in terms of January representing Capricorn, February Aquarius, and 4 of Wands would be in March. So let's move on. Okay, so the next one I'm going to suggest is something actually pretty straightforward. It's essentially taking somebody's question and just simply doing 3 cards without having the cards in any particular position. Okay, so let's just pull 3 cards. So here's the first one. Here's the second one. And here's the third one. Okay, so we've got the 4 of Cups that came up again for some crazy reason. So we'll leave it as is. So here's an example of where we're basically just going to pull 3 cards in relation to a query about a relationship. We are not going to have any particular positions because we're going to let ourselves free flow. Okay? So in free flowing, again, we're looking at those same ideas that we did in the last reading, which was pretty much a free flow as well. And we're going to look at what are the things that, what similarities do we have here? What numbers do we have? Do we have any similarities? And do we see a flow? Okay, so if we're looking at this particular reading, I don't see any numbers that are repeating, and nor do I see any suits that are repeating. So at first you might think, oh my goodness, I don't see anything repeating here, and so that makes it difficult. Well, it makes it so that a pattern is not jumping out at you. But again, go back to your idea of what is the flow of this reading. So the flow of this reading is actually that you have the World card, that's the first card that was pulled, and then we have what I would consider to be a significant dip, okay? And 4 of Cups is known to be a card that brings up relationship challenges and difficulties. And then we have, so imagine the World card is up at the top of the hill, and then we're going down into the valley, and then we're climbing back up again with the 6. So if I were going to do this reading or talk about this reading to somebody who asked me about a relationship, I would say that overall, there's been times, or there's certainly been aspects of this relationship that is very fulfilling, and that there's kind of a rewarding sense of having perhaps potentially worked hard at the relationship, and you feel like you've gotten to a certain level and felt a certain amount of completion and a certain amount of groundedness, because that's sitting, Saturn actually rules the World card, and Saturn is all about grounding. It's all about kind of hard work and making it to the end is what this card is really about. And then we have a significant dip that's happening. So we have almost, I don't want to use the word crisis because it may not be a crisis, but I'm just going to use it as a challenge or a difficulty that's happening, where you're dipping down and you're going into the valley of emotions, and the emotions that you're finding there are actually bringing you to a level of stagnation that is probably quite uncomfortable. And so this person is having to go down into, maybe they're aware of some of it, maybe they're not as aware of some of it. It might be something underneath the surface that they're thinking, I'm not quite content here, and I'm trying to figure out what's happening. So it could be a kind of a recommendation is that if they're not aware of what's going on, but they're unhappy, then that's what they need to do, is actually go into the emotional element of it and figure out what's really going on. The 4 of Cups is actually Moon in Cancer, and Moon rules the sign of Cancer, and so they are very connected. These two, the Moon and the Cancer, are very connected, and it's extremely emotional. And the reason that stagnation occurs with this card is because it's the number 4, which brings out grounding and order and structure and not a lot of spontaneity and not a lot of creativity, right? But also because Moon in Cancer is very, very emotional. And so you know that feeling where you go into an emotion of something that happens, like say you're rolling along on the weekend and it's Sunday and you get up and you've got some kind of emotional thing going on and you can't shake it and you can't get past it and you finally have to leave the house or do something else or talk to someone in order to get out of it. That is Moon in Cancer. It's almost like you get stuck into the emotion of it and it just spins around and around and around and you actually can't move out of it. You can't take the cup that's being held there as an opportunity. You can't move forward. You're not sure what's happening. You're feeling discontent. You're feeling boredom. You're feeling, not extremely happy. But you're almost not in touch with entirely why, or you're denying why. So the recommendation here is that there's a valley that this person is going into, and there may be an emotional situation that's going on, and they need to figure out why they might be feeling a sense of boredom or a sense of discontentment in order to really clean up that relationship, be honest about that situation. And then as we come out of the flow, so we're reading it as a flow, we come out of that and we've got the 6 of Wands, and we know that the 6 of Wands brings really kind of a new day. Like there's a sense that there's a triumph there, there's success there, there's optimism around the corner, and that this person is going to be able to come out of whatever they've experienced. Remember, the 5 comes right before the 6. So there's a challenge that has been overcome in order for the 6 to be back to balance, back to harmony, back to success. Just a really positive card. So I would read this as a flow. So think about when you're doing a 3-card reading and you're not doing positions necessarily, you're going to look for the flow of the reading. So that's how I would read that, is that there is a lot of positivity surrounding this relationship, but there is emotions underneath the surface that's pulling this person down into that valley of emotions, and they need to get in touch with what's really going on there. So I hope that helps in terms of reading when you don't have positions and you don't have necessarily any patterns and you're looking at it as a flow. All right, so the third and final 3-card spread that we're going to do today is actually one that I think a lot of people do this one. Sometimes I incorporate it on occasion, and I thought it would be a good one to just bring forward. So this one is when we are looking at a situation or the current scenario, and that would be card number 1. And card number 2 would be the challenge or barrier or obstacle that you need to deal with. And card number 3 would be the outcome. Okay, so I'm actually just going to randomly choose 3 cards. Okay. All right, so this is very interesting. So the first thing that jumps out at me, because you want to take a look at any patterns, first thing that jumps out at me is that we've actually pulled 3 major arcana. So if we're looking at 3 major arcana, 3 out of 3, we know that this particular situation is quite important and quite significant for the individual on a psychological or spiritual level. So it's not just going to be about the minor arcana, which kind of encompass the physical surroundings, the physical situations, the daily life, that kind of thing. So major arcana are certainly going to represent something quite different than that. Okay, so the first card that came up in the first position, which is the scenario or situation, is the Hanged Man. And the Hanged Man is actually relates to Neptune and Pisces energy. So it's really all about moving away from the physical aspect of life, and it moves us into kind of a spiritual state. And moving kind of that spiritual state, and not only that, but almost like the unconscious state or the state of oneness on a spiritual level. So it's taking us away from the everyday stuff and even the connections with, say, one person, but it's putting us in a place where we're trying to figure out how we connect more to the whole, I guess, on a spiritual level. So if you're in this state with the Hanged Man, it's a time where you're probably doing some contemplating, and you're going within. And it can be a difficult time because things are not necessarily moving forward. You know, it can really be a time of limbo where things are quite a bit at a standstill. And it almost feels like there's a suspension of activity and you're not able to actually move forward in whatever it is that you want to do or make any progress. So if you have this card come up for a scenario that's going on, you know that this person is really dealing with a situation where they're not moving forward, they're not feeling like they can progress. There's a standstill, there could be a period of pause, reflection, thinking about things, letting go of what they need to let go of. It can be almost a state where you need to perhaps look at something differently. You know, he's upside down, and you often talk about, you think about this card as being, maybe it's a point at which you need to look at things differently. So in any event, it's really a state of standstill and limbo where you're spiritually needing to connect, but you're not connecting with the things in the earth plane that are going to kind of help you move forward. So this scenario or this situation that this person is coming up against is really kind of a time of contemplation to figure out what to do next. And then we have the second card, which is relating to the challenge or the obstacle that you need to overcome. And that's actually the Lovers card that came up. I'm just going to move this a little bit so you can see it better. So it's the Lovers card that came up. And the Lovers card is often related to, we associate it very much with really passion or love, spiritual love, where you're connecting very much with someone else or something else that has great depth to you and great spiritual meaning. And that you feel very loving and connected and passionate about whatever it is that you're doing. But this card also relates to choices that you need to make and a crossroads that you may be at. And actually the Lovers card in the old depictions had 3 people. And it was really about how you connected with your family first. You know, you had love and connection with your family, your own nuclear family. And then as you grow older and you meet someone, then you have to make a choice to move from that family and create your own family and move forward with your new choices and your new passions and your new loves. So the obstacle and challenge, the way I see it, is that you've got a hanged man who is at quite a standstill in limbo, and then you've got the Lovers card saying, you need to maybe make a choice, make some decisions, and move ahead with that which is important to you. So I think the challenge here would be getting clear. The Lovers card is actually ruled by Gemini, and Gemini is all about logical thinking and clear thought and distinctive sort of thinking. And Hanged Man is completely opposite from that. It's very much about feeling connected to oneness and the spiritualness of things, and you don't have clarity. And Lovers card says, let's get clear. So the obstacle really, I think, is that there maybe is lacking clarity, and that you need to learn and figure out how to actually gain clarity. Gain clarity and perhaps make some decisions in order to move forward. And then the third card is the Outcome card in this particular reading that we're doing today. And so the Chariot is the Outcome card, and the Chariot card is known to be a card of success and triumph and being able to actually bring things to some level of, I don't even want to say fruition, but feeling like you have control and will over the situation at hand, and that you can use your external will and drive in order to take yourself to where you need to go. And it's also a great card in terms of decision making. So, you can be more definitive. You can use your will and your power and your intention much better and much clearer in that card. And so I think the whole idea is that this person in this scenario is moving from probably a lack of clarity and not quite knowing which way to go, needing to make some decisions, maybe look at things a little bit differently, maybe needing to make those decisions that we see in the Lovers card. And then the final card is the Chariot, which says that you have the internal drive and will and intention in order to put something into play and actually move forward and progress. And, so I really think that there's a progression here between a lack of clarity to clarity. And so I think this reading is about gaining clarity and making decisions and putting your will into power in terms of what it is that you want. So that's how I would read that particular spread in this scenario. So please do try some of these readings. I certainly hope that you've enjoyed them. I hope that the 3-card spreads will help you, start on your way in terms of using them. And thank you for watching Tarot Living. And if you're really energetic, give my video a like. Take care.